I have one or two in the wood stories to share if anyone's interested. Screen cap if you want, so others can enjoy too. At first, a bit of information about me and my senpai. My mom and dad. My dad and mom are both employed by the German government. He as a forester, she as a ranger in a national park. I also have two younger sisters, but they aren't relevant to the story. Dad was assigned to look after a patch of protected nature called
Kuhkopf-Knoblauchsaue,
which is a small but densely vegetated isle and a bordering forest, both separated by the old Rhine. Within the forest was a small estate, built around 1770 by some noble to host hunting parties. My parents jumped at the chance and moved in. I wasn't born yet. The estate wasn't that big. A one-family house with an attic and cellar. A larger house called the
Saubucht,
where the parties took place. My dad is a hunter, so he kinda continued the tradition of this place. Elongated shack for animals and a huge barn. The estate was around 7 kilometers from the next big road, and the nearest neighbor was 2 kilometers away. Because of this, I had very few friends. But on the other hand, I had the biggest playground ever, and I often ran through the woods alone to explore. You can't say weird occurrences were the daily norm, but there are a few I can still remember. Also, Pickrell is set estate. I share it because we don't live there anymore, and now it's unoccupied. Fug, I forgot to mention the, at least for me, most important building. A small shack that was erected a few kilometers away from our house during World War II by a local Gaulitier for hunting. It consists of one main room with desk and oven, and a smaller one, which is connected to the main room. There is also a small workroom, but it has its separated door. Later the shack was deconstructed and rebuilt right beside the estate, but the fundament out of the concrete is still to be found in its original place. Because of the history of this shack, we called it simply the Nazi shack, and after I cleaned it, we had a lot of memorable parties there. Pickrell is said shack. My first story is about an evening in this shack. Be around 18 years old. Have party with 2 friends. Planned in Nazi shack. Buddy 1, let's call him Lou, is already there, and we're stocking the shack with booze, beer, wood, and food. Because as soon as Buddy 2, let's call him Ali, arrives, we're planning to get hammered. Around 9 p.m., it's starting to get dark. Finish stocking, sit down and wait for friend. Eventually, smoking a moderately sized doink. Finish doink, but friend's still not here. It's already dark outside. Hey Anon, I'm bored. Remember, I have Worms 4 Mayhem on my PC, which we used to play a lot. Sure thing, we go back to the house. Leave the lights on so Ali sees we're ready to go, but closing the door so no animals can harass our stoned asses later. Fire up PC, and we start to play a few rounds. The window in my room is tilted, so we can hear Ali's car. After 3 rounds, I hear something like a motor and tires coming to halt on gravel. Ask Lou about it. He heard it too. We look out of window. We had a good sight on the front of the shack, and sure enough, we see a person open the door of shack and entering. The figure walked against the light, so all we saw was the black silhouette going inside. Silhouette looked like Ali, some bushy hair at shoulder's length, same leather coat and same height. Time to fuck us up.jpg. Lou and I are grabbing some stuff like glasses, a pot and matches, and proceeding to the shack in the darkness. If the door wouldn't have been open, we would have needed a torchlight to not trip and fall on the nettles on our way there. Enter shack, ready to hurl friend abuse at Ali, but Ali's not there. He must be fucking with us. Search workroom, which is the only other one with working light. Also nothing. We didn't find him outside either. In fact, on second look, there's no car of him in sight. Lou and I get worried because of an accident I will tell you later of. We get inside the shack again, because we were too chicken to walk back to the house in the dark, which was literally less than 50 meters away. We had our reasons not to. Believe me. Sat down. Tried to call Ali, but in the woods there's no connection as usual. We're still angsty as fuck. The smaller room connected to the main room via a door was mainly used for storage of empty barrels my dad used to make nettle manure in. Door slightly opened. Door is usually kept closed. Lou and I grab what we can, which is a small hatch and a branch, place each other in front door, and try in several minutes to man up. Literally screaming to fend off our panic when kicking the door open. Nothing but barrels and an open window. Guess what? Window is usually kept closed because it has no panels anymore. Suddenly, hear a swooshing sound like branches rubbing over the roof. Very, very heavy breathing. Sound has seemingly no origin. Comes literally from everywhere. LOL. Nope. Close door again and lock it. The sound continues and we check outside. No wind since we're in the middle of a goddamn forest. We couldn't hear the sound out there too, so it must have come from the crawl spaces either between the floorboards and ground, large enough for a large dog to crawl under, or under the roof. Sound goes on for a few minutes and eventually fades away. Lou and I are clueless what just happened, so commence 420. Doink is still burning when Ali finally arrives. Ask him if he forgot something at home, so he had to drive away again. Get a weird look from Ali. What are you talking about? Tell him story. He doesn't believe us. Go back and check. Swooshing sound is back. Needless to say, we played worms for the rest of the evening. So both Lou and I saw a person looking very much like our buddy entering the shack after we heard a car which wasn't there, and after we heard something rummaging or breathing in a crawl space. This occasion was the first, but not the last time we heard that sound. Every other evening we had a party there. We would hear the swoosh, swoosh for an extended time before again would fade away. After a few times, we didn't think much of it anymore. Another story? Maybe the reason we were mortified after not finding Ali? Alright then. Behind estate is a large meadow with apple trees, which is connected through a gap between the trees, large enough for a car to pass. The second meadow has no apple trees, is more narrow, and has, at least for me, a natural amount of small trees, with white bark standing at the tree line. The second meadow, no, not birches. I know how these look. I used to call them witch trees because they would always stand alone with no other trees within at least 20-meter radius. Be me, around 17 years old, fresh out of school. Time to hit the sack and enjoy life. I'm pretty good at drawing, so I carry my scrapbook and pencils literally everywhere because I'm mirroring those looks from others. Early evening. Sun is still out for an hour or so. Roll doink, pack stuff, grab sippage, and proceed onto the first meadow. Meadow was taken care of by local farmers, so around summertime, there was always haystacks lying around. Go all across meadow and place myself on haystack near the tree line. Must have been about 30 meters distant at most, because the sun will shine there for the longest before disappearing behind trees. Smoke doink, sip on sippage, draw shit, and listen to music. Feels good, man. .wma. Sun is getting down. Still bright day, but no more direct sunlight touches my corner of the meadow. Decide to stay a little longer before going home, even if drawing gets more difficult by the minute. Suddenly hear something rustling through the bushes at the tree line. Turn down music and scan for movement. What do your elven eyes see, Legolas? From where I sat, I could make out what appeared to be a shadowy figure of a large boar rummaging through the branches and tall weeds growing there. Wonder how this fucker got there, since the part of the meadow I was on had a fence going all the way along the tree line, so the boars wouldn't eat our apples, out of which we used to make apple juice and cider. Knowing my shit, I climbed down from haystack, and slowly going backwards towards the house in order to not piss the beast off. My dad once had to scale a tree and sat there for 5 hours because a female boar had attacked him and chased him up there. So I had no intention to test my luck. Shadow moves a little bit to the right. I immediately could tell something was off, but I'm still moving backwards, slowly. Couldn't put my fingers on it at first, but right away it dawned on me. It's getting taller. It's standing up. That's not a fucking boar, my son. It had a big white stripe on its back and was moving in a halfway crouched manner, bending its knees and back, which it turned to me the moment before it disappeared through the bushes. Local wildlife isn't very popular for walking bipedal. You know, the fight or flight spiel? In my case, it was the latter. The second I saw the white stripe, I booked it. I sprinted 200 meters to my house in mere seconds. Usain Bolt would have eaten my dust. I was in full panic mode, not even bothering to open the gate, but simply jumping at and scaling it. Dad is in the yard, gives me a bewildered look. "The fuck is wrong with you, son?" Tell Dad about Shadow Figure. He tells me right away. Must have been a hobo. Don't believe him, but he sticks to his explanation. My area isn't very popular for hobos, especially not the part I was living in, since all there was forest and the Rhine. Not even a nearby ferry to cross the river. There was only one road in the next town, was more than 7 kilometers away. So what on earth should a hobo do there, other than spying on the local stoner? I returned the next day around noon to search for IDK, at least something. I find nothing but a large hole in the fence where the shadow disappeared. The fence is literally made out of sheets of reinforced wire mesh. It has a hole in it. Decide to never ever go out to the meadow alone anymore. Since then, I always get an eerie feel when walking around the meadow, especially the second one. Living there taught me some lessons. It's the reason I'm pagan today, and why I'm highly suspicious when it comes to ghosts, natural spirits, and wards against such forces. There are a few other stories, but these are so short, I have to summarize them in the next post. Picro is a crude mapping of my old home. You can see the estate on the road northeast leading out of the woods. I also marked the spot where I saw the shadow for you guys, as well as the estimate original location of the Nazi shack. Can't put my finger on it since it has been a few years. Historically speaking, my area saw a fair share of bloodshed. The Swedes crossed the Rhine on wooden gates when fighting against Spain, and an awful lot of soldiers died in the swamps that spanned the area back then. During World War II, an Allied bomber crashed in a nearby lake and the crew drowned. Another one crashed on a field and the residents of Leheim beheaded them, parading their skulls on pitchforks. During the town in the forest of
Knoblauchsaue.
There are multiple craters from bombing runs, and you can still see some debris like rusted helmets and even ammunition where the Americans had their bridgehead. Behind the estate is an aerial bunker my sisters and I used to slide down in winter. A pre-World War II pilot crashed in the forest because of iced elevators and died. And lastly, I still don't know how, a trash tank lies a few hundred meters away from my house. Near one of those craters, I found a huge ass butter knife in there, and I still have it today. What follows now are a loose connection of minor happenings. Be me, very young. Can't tell off the top of my head how old exactly. Had gone swimming with dad and sisters. Went to New Rhine, so we made a bike tour out of it. Swam, all fine. Then we left. I'm eager to get home again. Gotta go fast. Dad and sisters are not inside anymore. I am Speed. Suddenly, a loud, sharp sound comes from the bushes to my left. So startled, I nearly fell off my bike. Sound is metalish, like someone sharpening a knife, but fuck-ass loud. So loud that you could think it's right beside you. Sound stops and I book it out of there. Be me, about 29 years old. Metalhead, so I have long hair, requiring a hairband. Home alone. Go to cooling cell, where not only the carcasses of deers and boars, but also the sweet succulent thing called beer. Enter building and it's dirty and looked like it's straight out of a horror flick. Rusty hooks hanging from the ceiling, with an integrated scale because Dad had to cut up animals there back then. The floor underneath is so drenched in blood, you can't scrub it clean. I had to try once because I spilled the blood bucket. Opening cooling cell, and it stinks of death and blood. Get beer. Closed door. Want to go back, but stop when I see one of my hairbands lying on the floor. That's weird. Bow down to pick it up. Suddenly, something pulls my hair. Literally pulls it out of my ponytail. Be dumbfounded. Be me, 7 or 9 years old. Be on bike tour with Dad. Still in forest. I notice a rancid smell. Tell Dad. Smells like dead animal. Live in the woods since birth, so I saw and smelled dead animals before, but never was it so intense. Proceed with bike tour. Later return to part of road where the stench is. Stench still there. Dad gets off bike and tells me to stay on road. Be good boys, so I oblige. Dad wanders a few meters into the bushes and stops in front of what seems to be a blue trash bag. He opens it up, and the smell gets like 100 times worse. Later, Dad told me someone had dumped 3 dead sheep on the forest, trying to conceal the smell in the trash bag, but the summer sun did its part. Weirdly enough, the sheep weren't from our area, since our local shepherd, we used to know very well, by the way, Rip,
Schafsjürgen.
had a completely different breed of sheeps. This is the last post for me, since that is all I can remember. I hope you had some fun to read. If some Anons are interested, I'm willing to show the place and its surroundings. I still have a key. Pickerel is the knife I found in the tank. It's one of my most precious belongings, even though the worth is more sentimental than material.